A long time ago in the land of Canaan, there was a man named Jacob, also known as Israel. He had 12 sons, but one of them was very special to him. His name was Joseph. Joseph was the 11th son, born to Jacob at his old age, and his mother was Rachel, Jacob's favorite wife. Because Jacob loved Joseph more than his other sons, he gave him a very special gift, a beautiful coat of many colors. This wasn't just any coat, it was bright, elegant, and unlike anything his brothers owned. Every time Joseph wore it, his brothers felt angry and jealous, wondering why their father loved Joseph more than them. But that wasn't the only reason his brothers were upset. Joseph was different. God had given him the ability to understand dreams and their meanings. One morning, Joseph excitedly told his brothers about a dream he had. "Listen to my dream," Joseph said, his face glowing. "We were out in the field, tying up bundles of wheat. Suddenly, my bundle stood up tall, and all of your bundles gathered around mine and bowed down to it." The brothers grumbled angrily. "So, you think you're going to rule over us? You think you're better than us?" They scoffed. A few days later, Joseph had another dream. "This time, I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me," he told them eagerly. His father Jacob, who had overheard, was puzzled too. "Are you saying that your mother, your brothers, and I will bow down to you some days?" Jacob asked. Although Jacob was confused, he kept the dream in mind, wondering what it could mean. But Joseph's brothers became even angrier. They thought Joseph was acting proud, and they started hating him more and more. One day, the brothers were far away, watching their father's flocks of sheep. Jacob asked Joseph to go and check on them to make sure they were safe. Joseph put on his colorful coat and set off. As he got closer, his brothers saw him coming from a distance. The sight of his bright coat filled them with rage. "Look," one of them sneered, "here comes that dreamer. Let's get rid of him and see what happens to his dreams." When Joseph reached them, the brothers grabbed him roughly. They took off his beautiful coat and threw him into a deep, dry well. Joseph cried out, "Help! Please let me go!" But the brothers ignored his cries. While they sat down to eat and mocked Joseph, they saw a caravan of merchants traveling to Egypt with camels loaded with spices. One of the brothers, Judah, had an idea. "Instead of leaving Joseph in the well to die, let's sell him to these merchants. That way, we'll be rid of him and make some money too." The brothers agreed. They pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him to the merchants for 20 silver coins. As Joseph was carried away to Egypt, he looked back at his brothers, confused and heartbroken. His own brothers had betrayed him. To cover up what they had done, the brothers dipped Joseph's beautiful coat in goat's blood and took it to their father. "Look, father, we found this coat. Doesn't it belong to Joseph?" they said. When Jacob saw the blood-stained coat, he cried, "A wild animal must have killed my son." Jacob was heartbroken and mourned for Joseph for many days, refusing to be comforted. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph was sold to a powerful man named Potiphar, who was in charge of Pharaoh's guards. Even though Joseph was far from home, he trusted God and worked hard. God blessed everything Joseph did, and soon Potiphar noticed. He made Joseph in charge of his entire household. Everything seemed to be going well until trouble came. Potiphar's wife began to notice Joseph and tried to get him to lay with her. But Joseph refused. "I could never sin against God or betray my master Potiphar." He said, but Potiphar's wife was angry that Joseph rejected her. One day, she told a terrible lie about Joseph, saying he had tried to harm her. Even though Joseph was innocent, Potiphar believed his wife's story and threw Joseph into prison. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. The prison guard noticed that Joseph was responsible and put him in charge of the other prisoners. One day, two of Pharaoh's servants, the cupbearer and the baker, were thrown into prison. Both of them had strange dreams on the same night and were worried because they didn't know what the dreams meant. Joseph said, "God can help me understand your dreams. Tell them to me." The cupbearer said, "I dreamed that I saw a grapevine with 3 branches. The grapes ripened, and I squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup." Joseph smiled and said, "Your dream means that in 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your position as cupbearer." The baker shared his dream next. "I dreamed that I was carrying 3 baskets of bread on my head, but birds came and ate the bread." Joseph's face grew serious. "In 3 days, Pharaoh will execute you, and the birds will eat your flesh," he said sadly. 3 days later, everything happened just as Joseph had said. The cupbearer was restored to Pharaoh's service, but the baker was executed. Before the cupbearer left the prison, Joseph begged him, "Please remember me when you're with Pharaoh and help me get out of this place." But the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph. 2 years later, Pharaoh had 2 strange dreams that no one could explain. In the first dream, Pharaoh saw 7 fat cows and 7 skinny cows. The skinny cows ate the fat ones, but they stayed just as thin. In the second dream, he saw 7 healthy heads of grain and 7 dry, withered ones. The withered grain swallowed up the healthy ones. Pharaoh was very troubled, and none of his advisors could explain the dreams. That's when the cupbearer remembered Joseph. "Pharaoh, there's a man in prison who can explain dreams," he said. Joseph was quickly brought to Pharaoh. "I cannot explain your dreams on my own," Joseph said humbly. "But God will help me." Joseph told Pharaoh, "Both dreams mean the same thing. The 7 fat cows and 7 healthy grains mean there will be 7 years of plenty with lots of food. But the 7 skinny cows and withered grains mean there will be 7 years of famine after that. Pharaoh must store food during the good years to survive the bad years." Pharaoh was amazed at Joseph's wisdom. "God has given you great understanding," he said. "I will make you the 2nd most powerful man in Egypt. You will help us prepare for the famine." Joseph stored huge amounts of food during the 7 good years. When the famine came, people from all over came to Egypt to buy food. Even Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt, but they didn't recognize him. However, Joseph recognized his brothers right away. Instead of revealing himself, he pretended not to know them. He spoke to them harshly and accused them of being spies. "Where have you come from?" he demanded. The brothers explained that they had come from Canaan to buy food. Joseph tested them to see if they had changed. He put them in prison for 3 days. Then he released them, but insisted that they return with their youngest brother, Benjamin, to prove they were telling the truth. Joseph also tricked them by having his servant hide his silver cup in Benjamin's bag. After they left, Joseph's servant chased after them. "Why have you stolen my master's cup?" the servant demanded. The brothers were horrified. "We didn't take anything," they insisted. But when the servants searched their bags, the cup was found in Benjamin's bag. The brothers tore their clothes in sorrow and returned to Joseph, begging for mercy. Judah pleaded, "Take me as your slave instead, but let Benjamin go back to our father." When Joseph saw how much they cared for Benjamin, he could no longer hold back his emotions. With tears in his eyes, Joseph said, "I am Joseph, your brother." The brothers were terrified, thinking Joseph would punish them. But Joseph comforted them, saying, "Don't be afraid. What you meant for harm, God used for good. He sent me here to save lives, including yours." Joseph forgave his brothers that when Jacob heard that Joseph was alive, his heart was filled with joy. Joseph and invited their entire family to live in Egypt. This story teaches us that even when life seems unfair, God has a plan. Like Joseph, we should trust God, work hard, and forgive others, no matter how hard things get. Don't miss out on the powerful lessons and inspiring stories we have in store. And tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Follow us for more captivating Bible adventures that will strengthen your faith and uplift your heart. Hit that subscribe button and join the Bible Storytime family today.